Hello and welcome here. So this is my first entry of my first book review of 2024. When the year started, I remember part of the things I said I would do is to make out time to read more. A little background, I didn't spend most of my childhood reading like most of my friends. I spent most of my childhood actually, learning via TV, and then the internet came. But over the years, I picked up a huge interest in reading and most importantly, writing. And to be a better writer, I realized that I needed to read more. So this year, I started with one of the books that I've been putting off all my life for about 10 years now, which is Chimamanda's Americanah. First, I would like to say that I'm a huge fan of Chimamanda. I've read two of her works and I had been putting this up because I didn't want to rush it. So this year, I reached out also to my friend and colleague Yusuf Akimpelu, and we decided that we were going to start reading one book each month alongside another of our colleagues in Senegal, which is Gaius. So the month of January has passed. I haven't completed the book that I set out to read, but I'm glad that I've at least read beyond half of it, enough to review what I've read so far. So here goes my review. So Chimamanda's Americanah explored the subject of race, not just in the world, but specifically in a place like America, which is a place that has diversity. And also it touched on the subject of what it is like to be a person of color and to be someone different in our world today. The book centers around Ifemelu, which is the main character, and also there are other supporting characters like Obinze, who turned out to be, I will not give out so much spoilers for someone who haven't read the book, but Obinze is Ifemelu's first love. In the book, I love how she talked about things like, like culture in Nigeria, religion, how it affects people, and even how your background can affect you. The book started off in Nigeria, and when it dwelt on Nigeria, it touched on things like nepotism, things like how people, psychophancy, which is very popular in Nigeria, and even how misuse of power, how people use their powers to give out opportunities or give out monies that are meant to be used to run business. It touched on religion, religious fanaticism also. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag a lot, but at least it gives you an idea. But the core subject of the book is actually about life as a person of color or as a different person in a diverse place like the United States of America. So one thing I liked is the subtle way the book explored these complex subjects without making it look over preachy or too, it was just light and you pick these things up. It also showed me that most of the things that you experience maybe as a Nigerian may not be entirely peculiar because other Africans experience it. But in a place like America, I realized from reading this book how layered, discrimination or experiences are for people. So Africans have a level of either experiences that might be peculiar to them, but African Americans also have experiences that might be peculiar to them from how this book explored it. And then, it showed how the different strata's and people like Hispanics and Mexicans also had the kind of experiences that were peculiar to them. I saw the struggle of trying to fit in, but also having to be different in a place like the United States, and even just finding identity generally as a person, of which the character in the book had to explore these stages until she found herself and then found her identity. The good thing is this book also shed light on these things without having to maybe demonize, or there was a proper balance in how most of these subjects were discussed. You'd see why people who act a certain way to a certain group do that, and even how those who are being treated in that certain way receive it, or the sort of ideas in their head. One of the parts of the book that I liked the most was how, when they were talking about, when you come into America, for example, and say you're in a university, how you had to attend the typical African kind of associations, where you meet your fellow Africans, but you also had to associate with African Americans, because that is also important for you in terms of fitting in and even understanding the realities of a place like America. And then also the importance of having to make connections with people outside the African American or African descent spheres. This book also, made it very modern to see what it is like to be Black, especially for someone like me. For example, I grew up in Nigeria. I don't think the subject of the color of my skin is much of an issue. I don't think I would have to second guess if I should walk into an elevator or step out because of the color of my skin. We may talk about things like tribe, but the color of skin hardly ever determines any opportunity or merits, for anybody. But from reading this book, I got to realize that the moment I step beyond the shores of Africa, or even this part of Africa, where skin color becomes distinct, it can actually either make or mar my opportunities or even my experiences. I liked the book. I also can talk about the style. The style was very easy to read. It was a soft read. It wasn't something so hard. I don't think I encountered so many words that I haven't seen before. I like, of course, it's Chimamanda. So I liked the flow of the stories, how we move from one thought to another and into another, and you can completely see the picture clearly painted without complexities. Another thing that I also noticed is, I think because this is also a very touchy subject, there was a conscious effort not to step into the politics of the subject, but to just keep it as experiential as possible. So it wasn't a Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter kind of thing. It was these are the experiences of people like this through the eye of one person and then other supporting characters. Back when there was also the Nigerian part of the story, you could also see how some things play out in Nigeria, how people's upbringing can affect their final turnout, and how, things like, say, the kind of schools you go to might also affect your final, how you turn out in life, more or less. So on a closing note, I highly would recommend this book. Yes, I haven't finished it. I'm almost done. But considering that I've gone beyond 3/4, I highly recommend the book. I cannot wait to finish it. I will probably update this video when I eventually finish it, which is definitely going to be soon. And you should read it. And finally, I would also like to thank Yusuf for at least pushing me and spurring me to not just read this book, but to also make this review video. So catch you by the end of February. I'll definitely would have finished this and picked up another, which I definitely would finish before the end of the month. Thank you. The end.